Well, Cowboy Jim, Northern Alberta, Canada. And it is somewhere after 3 o'clock, but it's before 4 o'clock. And uh, on the last video, which I rewatched probably for the sixth time and perhaps more. And it was called, God called it Recollection. And I, I asked him, would you care to do a video? And he said yes. And I said, okay, that sounds good. And I didn't bother asking him, the title, subject matter. I just didn't. I had gotten up 1 hour early, and so I had wakened up the same time that I would wake up for the last 4 months, and that was at 4:30 in the morning. But I had forgotten to turn my clocks back, and 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 so uh, I woke up. I thought, hey, I'm awake. Let's get this day started, and I got my breakfast, which incidentally was just what I'd eaten the night before, and I just put the pan on the stove again, and I was thinking, this is 4 days in a row that I ate the same stuff, and I just pull another meal out of the freezer, and I'll open it up, put it on the counter, and then I'll feed it through the system and heat it up in the morning or at night, and I eat the same blessed stuff. And there's a reason for that. I don't eat for the joy of eating. I eat so that I can live. And uh, God has given me the gift. Well, it goes right back to my mother, who taught my three sisters and I how to cook. And I think of our world today, and I think of the male children whose parents or teachers or people have tried to cause boy children to question whether they're boys, girl children whether they're girls, and there's confusion out there. And I listen to remarkable people, who seem so stupid, and they're promoting the education system has to take over the family. The children will suffer otherwise because the educators are so learned. Okay, I I I I have had some good teachers in my life. I remember Mrs. Christie. Uh, at the time, she was probably 60 or 65, and I was, I don't, I guess with Mrs. Christie, I was probably in grade 4 or 5, and I remember Miss Atkinson, and when I was 2 years old, and um, I'm telling you, teachers have the absolute responsibility of tending to children, the absolute authority to raise their own blessed children. Not mine. If you're smart, not yours. God gave you the responsibility, the authority, the smarts. Pray to God. He not only helped you to copulate, impregnate, but he taught you how to raise a child. I've had the privilege throughout my life of watching how people deal with their children. My mother, as I said, I have three sisters. God, through my mom and through my dad, taught those three girls how to be girls, taught them how to be women. And I was close to my mom. Nowadays, that would throw up all sorts of warning signs and everything else in me. But my mother taught me how to be a man. She taught me how to work. She taught me how to treat horses. She taught me how to speak. She taught me how to be polite. My dad was influential too, but I generally found the greatest success in my relationship with my dad. If he said something, if I could get away with it, I would do the exact opposite. And it would usually turn out better. I mean, really. But my parents were there, positioned in my life to give me instruction on how to live and how to be a contributing factor in society. I listen to the teachers union promote the idea that our Alberta government, this has really been a pain, a thorn in my flesh. And I listen to teachers appealing to the people of Alberta with talking points, little statements that sound so good, but aren't substantive. They sound good, but there's nothing there. And I think, okay, in history, we have learned. I look over affectionately at my Bible, 2 Timothy, verse 3, I think. And I think you and I do not need an educated person to teach and raise our children. If you need, and I have to be very careful because this has to be for public consumption. And so God tempers my input in this video. And I had asked him when I was outside, I said, kind of like to do a video. The last one turned out really good at 3:30 in the morning. And then I went to work, and when I go to work, it's not to stand around and be a number. I go to work to work. That sounds so strange. People go to work and they work harder at avoiding work than they would expend the energy if they just worked. And that is so very, very much the way of society. God taught you how to uh, uh, propagate. He taught you how to be sexually intimate with your spouse, leading to um, procreation, leading to the amazing, miraculous conception uh, of your, as a man, your contribution to a lady's body that brings forth a child. Do you find that staggering? I do. Quite enjoy the exercise. Actually, it's really it's a heart thing. It's 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 a miracle when you take two individuals, contrary to the education system nowadays and the political correctness. It takes a man, okay, and it takes a woman to uh, uh, lead to a baby, which is an amazing thing in itself. Um, and it is staggering when you have people who have been educated to raise your children, that teachers have been taught that they are the final authority on the well-being of your children, your progeny. I remember getting a call from the kindergarten, and they said we would like to have you and your wife meet after school tomorrow and discuss your son. I said, uh, what is there to discuss about my oldest boy, Scott's miracle? They said we have certain issues that we feel that we need to talk to you about, get you on side, inform you. And I thought, excuse me, you're going to inform me about my son? And they said, well, yeah, yes. And so my wife and I went in. The boys, they went out and played in the schoolyard after school, and my wife and I sat down with the teacher, kindergarten. Okay, I'm trying diligently to say that correctly. It was a 5-year-old pre-grade 1 kids. And the principal, he said, "Well, we have a problem." I said, "Okay." And he was speaking about my son, and 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 uh, the ice is thin is what I was thinking. Okay, You're going to teach me how to tend to my son. And uh, so, anyways, we sat down on these little tiny chairs. Oh my goodness. Like they were half sized, they were for little 5 year old kids. And my oldest boy, Scott, I call him Big Scott now because he was never small. He was always big, even when he was small. Born at 10 pounds too, and I had told him, both my boys, Big Joe, Big Scott, when they were 4 or 5, I said, "You guys are Canadian born Irish." That's what my dad told me when I was 20. He said, "You forget whatever you want to forget, but don't you dare forget that you are third generation Canadian born Irish." And 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 people might say, "Well, you're just living proof that you have no right to raise a child." Hey, I have that right because God gave me that right, and moreover, that responsibility. So we were listening to the principal. He is kind of a psychiatrist, psychologist, and oh, he was smart. Oh, really smart. And he said, "We have your son has a learning disorder." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "Your son has a learning disorder and he does not seem to be able to learn as quickly as the other children." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." I said, "How many other children?" Well, he said, "There are 5 altogether." I said, "So let's see. You have 5 5-year-old children who do not seem to be able to learn as quickly as everyone else." Uh, he said, "That's right. That's right. And we would like to have a psychiatrist uh, assess your child." I said, help me with that." He said, we have a psychologist, a psychiatrist, psychologist type person on the school board's payroll, and we want you to give us permission to do an in-depth study on your son, your 5-year-old son. Well, he didn't say that, but it was quite obvious. I said, "Well, okay, so you have 5 kids who you deem uh, to need extra counseling." And so I said, "What do these kids have in common?" Well, he said they're all 5 years old. And I said they're having a struggle. I think it was maybe grade 1. They're having a struggle fitting in with the rest of the kids in the class. He said, "Yes." I said, "The rest of the kids in the class, other than these 5, the rest of the kids are 6 years old." He said, "That's right. That's right. We have a problem. We have a problem." And I thought, your problem is that you are sitting across from me and you're telling me how I am to raise my child. And I sat in this little tiny chair, and I had fought in the Canadian Championship in judo in 1970. and I had not turned my back on many situations. And I thought, son, he was probably older than me. Doesn't matter. I called him son. Uh, you don't know who you're talking to. I thought you 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 want to uh, establish, study the shortfall of my son, and you're sitting there and you have that knowledge. You uh, my wife and I and God, because I remember the day when I was pondering something with the Lord, and God told me, He says, "It's time for you to go home." I looked over at my little hot Corvette, and I thought, uh, He said, "It's time for you to go home." It was my afternoon off for something, and He said, "Make a baby." I said, "Oh, okay. I rather have enjoyed the 3-4 years of practice." Quite. And he says, "Yeah, that's what you need to do." I said, "Okay." I said, I'd like to talk to you about that." I said, "I don't know how to talk to a woman, eh?" I said, "Father, you know this." Moses said something similar. God said, "You go to the children of Israel and you tell them." And Moses said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 up there. Oh, please, whoa, up." Uh, he said, "I'm slow of speech." And God says, "Well, I'll give you that." Moses said, I'm slow of speech." That meant he was shy. And God said, "Okay, I'll give you your brother Aaron, and you can tell him what to say, and he'll say it." Moses says, "Good, good, good." But mine was, if I go home and my wife and I entertain ourselves quite a bit in a productive manner, shall we say, uh, and I have a girl child, I will be at a loss as to, uh, I said, quite frankly, I'll probably retire in prison, because if someone looks sideways at my daughter, I'll just do with them that I felt like doing with the guy who was sitting across from me, telling me all the things that he thought should happen with my son. And I thought, no, no. And so we were sitting there in a little circle, and my wife was kind of off on the right, and the wise man, psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, I could care less. He is sitting there, and I looked, I looked again, and the teacher who lady who was teaching, and oh, so concerned about my son's well-being, I thought, that woman has not learned the art form of keeping her knees in close contact with each other. And I thought, that woman has red underpants on. And I thought, how do I stop looking at that? And the lady teacher didn't want me to stop looking at those red underpanties. And I made a concerted effort, and I listened to these teachers who were instructing my son's mother and I on what we should do in order to enhance the teaching, the instruction of our son. That boy, his name is Scott, and he is Scott's miracle. When he was 18, he was knocked off an overhead catwalk at work, fell 18, 20 feet onto his head, broke his neck, crushed his skull, was in a coma, and God healed him, miraculously healed him. And these people were giving us instruction on how we should be raising our son. We had two sons, Big Scott, Big Joe. And at the end, I mean, hey, I made a concerted effort, okay? And I stayed away from the red underpanties that the woman was displaying in my direction. But my wife of the day, she couldn't see, and the her boss, he couldn't see. You'd probably seen him anyways. And I thought, get me out of here. Get me out of here. I thought, it's got to be a solution. I mean, a kid is 5 years old. That does not mean they have a learning disorder. That means they are learning at the level of a 5-year-old kid. And so the head guy in the red underpanties, I tried diligently. I'm not looking over at that woman, okay, on the stupid chairs, and so I kind of ignored her. That wasn't hard, and I thought, let's get out of here. And I looked at my wife, and she knew that look. It was, we're leaving, okay. So I let the guy do his thing because he was so learned. I don't even know if he were married, let alone with children. Okay. I didn't want to know him. I am not in favor of people in leadership instructing other people on how they should live. I can take scripture and say, this is what the Bible says. But I don't want to judge someone. I don't want to judge their greatest commission, and that is the rearing, the raising of their children. I don't tell people how to live. I don't judge them in order to determine that they're not living that way. I don't do that. I don't. It's not right. And yes, there are parents who don't have a blessed clue on how to raise their kids. And do I believe the government should step in and take the kids away from them? Not unless it is physically injurious to the children. If the children are at risk, yes, okay, I'm in favor of that. There are parents who are abusers and manic depressives and all these things. And some parents are terrible at parenting. But it does not take away the fact that the kids are a result of man and woman, sexual intimacy, leading to the joy of having a child come out and tell you what to do for the next 18 years. Little humor there. And but that's almost it. But we headed out to our truck, gathered our boys up out in the, smiled at the red underpants that the lady never did get her legs. So that, I mean, like if if you're not intending to be checking out undergarments in a woman you don't even know who is your kid's teacher, um, I mean, that was not my nature. My nature was to honor God and work hard and try not to be a jerk to my family, to my kids. Try to encourage my sons, not torment them, not teach them through um, 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 submission, but teach them through positive affirmation. Okay, it's the way it was. So my first wife and two boys, we went out and got in my big Ford and started rumbling towards the acreage where we lived at. And I said, I wish there was an option because I would not send my son back to that school. Not ever, not for another single stupid day. And I didn't tell my wife about the teacher's red underpanties, okay? Uh, I was trying real hard to forget what the underpanties looked like. I'd never seen red ones. I hadn't looked for them either. But nonetheless, we'll move on. Try diligently to move on. And my wife, a smart woman. Well, she married me, so perhaps I still think she was smart. Okay, and I said if we had an option, she said, "Well, there's always the Christian school," and I said, I never thought of that," and I said, that's pretty expensive. And then I thought, who cares? Who cares? Do I want a Christian lady propagating, promoting a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, raising my sons? And the answer was yes. Compared to red underwear, teacher and psychologist and stupidness, telling us how to raise our kids. And so then the very next day, my son, first one in school, started attending a Christian school. And people say, well, that's a terrible thing to do to your kid, eh? Because you're taking them out of society and you're putting them into a safe zone where they won't be confronted with all the issues of life. Listen, a 6-year-old kid does not have to work on the issues of life until they are ready to work on the issues of life. God, I can't believe that you did this. It may well be that it's just, 4:30. Some would say that's early. I had to get up at 3:00 in order to see how Donald Trump had been doing in the election down in the States. Okay. Summation. You have responsibility. As a man, you stood at stud and impregnated the love of your life, I hope. And the lady has a responsibility. You are doing your best to be the parent of the child that you birthed. And thank God it's the women that do the birthing and not the man. Whoa, that's terrible. And but we walk with the knowledge that God has a plan. It was God that had said, it's time for you to go home and make a baby. I said it would be nice if you just let me have male children, okay? He did. We did. That's all my gene pool seems to throw nowadays, and which is just fine. And so we concluded, established, determined our responsibility as parents. And we chose to walk in that responsibility. I wanted my sons, two sons, to be confronted with the gospel from a slightly different perspective than, say, that I was doing, and slightly different perspective, a broader perspective than, say, the church that we attended back then. And God did just that. But God did not say, there are some teachers down there at that school, and they will know how to raise your children better than you. God didn't say that. I said, God, I want to raise my sons in honor of you. I want them to be builded up from within to without. I want them to have enough guts, courage, that they will take a shot at anything in life. They will not be timid. They will be man children, not pussy children, because no pussy. I wanted to honor God by the word of my mouth and the work of my hands, and I failed, but I wanted to, and I tried to. And I wanted to raise my sons to be men of God. So, should I have allocated the responsibility of raising of my children to some teachers down the road? Red underpants or no? Okay? The answer is no. No. So, God and I and my two sons' mother, we got our kids removed from the secular system and sent to a Christian school where they could learn how to interact with other people of similar beliefs to ours. And let's just cover that. I believe, and I'm going to wrap this up because I'm looking across at my breakfast. I think I should have turned it down a little bit, but I can't get up and leave the laptop and do it now. Okay. In the beginning, God. In the beginning, God. I choose to believe in Scripture. And I watch throughout the history of my old King James Bible how God, his presentation of himself to us is portrayed. And I look at the magnitude of love that God has placed in a mother's heart, should be, in a dad's heart, should be, towards their children. And I think this is a grave responsibility, huge responsibility. God, enable us to do this. And so we prayed with our kids. We talked with our kids. I taught my boys a little bit how to fight. Little bit. They have taken it much further than I was able to instruct. My boys made their own decisions concerning God's plan of salvation. In the beginning, God created. God has a plan. His plan is for your good. His plan is fulfilled in what Jesus said, suffer the little children to come unto me. That does not mean give up your authority as a parent to some teacher, red underpanties or no, okay? Okay? It does not mean that you are to give up your responsibility of raising your children in the admonition of God. Here's God's plan for your life, for the life of your children. For God so loved the world that he, God, gave his one and only Son, Jesus, to suffer, bleed, and die on the cross for your sins, that if you would but humble yourself and pray and turn from your wicked way, asking God to forgive you, God will forgive you, and God will enable you, and God will empower you, and God will give you the peace that passes all understanding. But you have to be proactive. You have to be proactive in terms of your children. Who is instructing your children? Do they have any level of morality that would be akin to yours? Is the education system designed to turn out children who are all the same when children aren't all the same? And so my boys, they went to the Christian school until they were in grade 12, and then they went to the public school. It was their choice. We did not force them. It was their choice. They made choices, and some of them weren't good. Some of them were good. There's a reason that God refers to Jesus as his Son. There is no greater love than that love between a parent and a child, a girl or a boy. There is no greater love. Can you imagine God allowed his Son Jesus to suffer, bleed, and die on the cross for your sins? What are you going to do with that God? What are you going to do with that magnitude of love? What are you going to do with that Jesus? And I kind of look away for a second, and God is saying, wrap it up. And so let's wrap it up. You're going to live until the day you die. Only until the day of your demise do you have a choice to choose between God and Satan. And Satan is pervasive within the parameters that God has set for him. Okay? God's the authority. Satan is a created option that he, God, created in order to give you a choice. God says, you choose whom you will serve, good or evil. God says, you choose. God says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked way, I, God, will hear from heaven. I will heal their land. They will be my people, and I will be their God. So, thank you for watching. It's real early, but I just wanted to make this video. And God took me back to the red panties. I still tried to look away, and to show me education is good, but not all education is beneficial. Not everyone who is an educator is qualified in the heart, soul, mind, spirit to be an educator. And you cannot divest yourself of your own blessed responsibility towards your own children by giving that responsibility over to someone else who is better trained. Screw that. Okay, Cowboys done the morning tirade. I think uh, I look away and I ask Father, did we cover it? He said yes. This is the same God who says, spare the rod and spoil the child. Well, that doesn't mean beat the kid. That means discipline, chasten. God chastens us because he loves us. Okay, God bless. Y'all take care. Hey, I would love to have some teachers make a comment on this. I really would. I really would. Because I've had some good teachers. I've had a few that weren't. Okay. And I don't want teachers establishing the value systems of my children because they're qualified or have a degree that says they're qualified. Sorry. I want God to be the final authority in my life, in the lives of my sons and grandsons and great grandsons. Okay. God bless. Y'all take care. Okay. Thank you.